All right, today's lesson we're going to start off a little bit differently. I would like you to start with a different video on YouTube. It's called The Basic Number Properties Wrap by Christopher Clark. And the first scene is the one you see here. It's a soccer stadium. You go ahead and watch that. I've got my Rubik's Cube while you guys are watching the video. Alright, well, I got one side figured out, and hopefully you were able to learn about the different properties that we need to learn today. First thing I'd like you to do, of course, we've got the lesson. It's 1-4. Please put today's date. This says some point in September. I'm not sure what day it'll be when you watch this. Your vocabulary for today: commutative property, which you just watched about in that video, associative property, and two different identity properties. Now, instead of struggling with trying to explain these in words, please just be able to give me an example. The commutative property means that you can switch your terms and still get the same answer. A plus B is the same thing as B plus A. That works also for multiplication. A times B is equal to B times A. I'm going to give this property the shorthand of being the property that shows you can switch things. All right? The next property is the associative property, and it just means you can regroup. All right? A plus B in parentheses plus C is the same thing as A plus in parentheses B plus C. This also works with multiplication. If you're having trouble understanding any of these, put in some numbers and it'll be very obvious. 2 plus 3 is the same thing as 3 plus 2. 2 times 3 is the same thing as 3 times 2. The associative property we're going to call the regroup property. You can change your parentheses around and the math works out the same. The identity properties of addition: A plus 0 equals A. The identity property of multiplication: A times 1 equals A. You need to be able to show me or tell me commutative property means this, associative property means this, and the two special cases of identity property. Okay? So, in the book, go to page 24 in your book. We are up to problem 1, identifying properties. Let me zoom in a little bit. This is very straightforward, just to make sure that you understood everything we just did. They give you 3 examples, A, B, and C. First one, multiply something times 0. That's the 0 property of multiplication. This is regrouping. They've regrouped the parentheses, so that's the associative property. This one, adding 0 to it. That's the identity property. Please, right now, do got it, number 1, A, and B. Just write down which property it is. Pause the movie. I'll work on my Rubik's Cube. All right. Moving on. Problem 2. Using properties for mental calculations. They're going over the shorthand that some of you are already doing in your head, and they're explaining what the labels are. If you have to add up these 3 numbers, $7.75, $2.40, and $1.25, using the commutative property, you can switch around the sums. Using the associative property, you can regroup the sums. And notice adding $7.75 and $1.25 in your head adds up to a nice even 9, which is much easier to work with than starting with $7.75 plus $2.40. So all they want you to do is realize that you can switch things around, and sometimes it makes it easier to figure these out. So please take a look at got it number 2. Can holds 3 tennis balls, and so on and so on. How many tennis balls are in 10 cases? Use mental math. So the answer that I want from you is, of course, the answer to the problem, but also a little bit about your process. What mental shortcut did you figure out to take? I'm going back to twiddling my thumbs while I wait. So I remember now why I don't do much Rubik's Cube. It's because it makes me frustrated. All right. Problem 4. We've got 2 other vocabulary words. I didn't put them on your list. I'm not sure that I feel you have to memorize them. I might change my mind later. Basically, you were using deductive reasoning in problem 3, which means you were logically going from the facts you had to a conclusion you didn't have. One way that you can show that a statement is not true is by finding a counterexample. Counterexample proves that something is false. This can be troublesome because, well, I'll show you. So for number A, you're trying to figure out if this is true or false. And if it's false, give it a counterexample. A times B equals B plus A. Well, you know that's not true. And to show me when it's not always true, there you go. 5 times 3 is 15. 3 plus 5 is 8. Those are not equal. How about letter B? For all numbers, A plus B in parentheses plus C is equal to B plus in parentheses A plus C. Well, aside from the fact that that's the example that you have for the associative property, yeah, that must be true. If you tried to give a counterexample for this, you would be working all day and never come up with one because it's true. So we'll see how much I need you to understand about deductive reasoning and counterexamples. There we go. Now your last got it for today is number 4. And well, this is where we're going to figure out how much of that you need to do. I want you to think on these. You've got 3 examples. You either have to tell me that they're true, or you have to find one counterexample to prove that they are false. Do your best. Letter C is a bit of a challenge, and they kind of give away the answer for A. Think it through. See what you can come up with. Your last bit of homework for tonight, you might be able to predict this by now, is the lesson check. I'm on page 26. There are 6 problems, and the first 4, the first 2, you are naming the property, commutative, associative, or identity property. All right. For number 3, I want to know what kind of shortcut you used, what kind of mental math you used to figure that out easily. Number 4 is just simplifying. Then for number 5, you're going to tell me if these are equivalent. For number 6, you're going to, the math is all done on number 6. You need to explain why. And just one word will work. Give me the name of the property, or say multiplication or whatever. And then we'll check this tomorrow. Good job. Record short video tonight.